Anyway, we're going to do the gold, and I use Japanese uniform. Like I said, this color is already 12 years old, and I have been using that color for 12 years for my non-metallic gold. And I can show you a picture of the first model that I found where I used it on. It was an old Rackham Belisarius clone. It's in my my Comini or Not gallery. Of course, it doesn't look nothing like non-metallic metal, but that's quite another thing altogether. So I use Japanese uniform and black, and I will mix a rather dark base color for the gold, and I will just use this dark base color and white for all of the gold. And after I painted the gold, I usually shade in a couple of other tones. Let's see, I will paint something a little bit more easy first, and then paint the structure up here, I guess. So just to get back into the color, I'm going to paint this area and I'm already a bit lighter than the base color that I applied here. And there's also a lot of spiky bits, and I will also already hit the edges that face downwards, because we want a bit of a reflection there. And by painting a base, sort of a base color all over these edges, they will look like they're catching all the light, and I'll still only do the last reflections in a really light color, almost white. But if they're facing downwards, then probably not that light. But I still want to hit all these areas on all the edges, even if they're not facing up. And since we want to maximize contrast again, we'll have this area stay base tone and maybe even shade it down to sort of a gray. Okay, like I said, next step is already going to be adding white. I have my trusted super white. Take a bit of that and mix it into the base color. Again, starting with the edges. And here I will already start not to hit all of the area, not the full length of that edge, but more the middle length of that edge that's pointing downwards, because that's where most of the light is going to accumulate. Also here, and we have an edge that is sort of coming back out and pointing upwards. And this is going to be our highest spot and our lightest spot. Alright, so I'm gonna start with the layering up here. slowly adding a bit more white to the mix. And again here I'm starting with the highest edges that will be white anyway, and then sort of fade out the color to the outside. Carefully hitting the edges again. Doing the same, starting in the middle and then feathering out towards the outside. And you can do that both by adding lines that get slimmer towards the outside, or what you can do is you thin the paint a bit more. That's two approaches. Okay, then we have this feature in the front here that we also want to hit with a bit of light, so like this. And then carefully I'm going to apply a couple more layers up here for the additional light. And this is already really light, and we only want that to cover a really tiny area, because that's almost already our highlight color. Sometimes what I do when I think there's not enough, because right now we sort of have a dark area and then we have a really light area. Sometimes when that happens, so yeah, when we have areas like this where it's a bit dark and then already really light, something that I do is I'll take a bit of the base color and touch the middle areas to bring back a bit of the yellow. Or sometimes I'm even going back to pure Japanese uniform and hit it with some very light glazes. That way the yellow comes back out a bit more. And adding some white again for the rest of the reflection. So yeah, this is the area that is facing up the most, so that's why I'm painting it the lightest. Okay, just for the sake of trying it, I will try and add a few reflections in pure white. I usually don't go up to full white, but here I want to just try it. To see how it looks if we maximize contrast. Yeah, I think that looks okay. So I'll keep that. But that means I also have to go lighter in the areas that I already painted. But I mean, it's the thing why I use it is because it is a yellow that also has, yeah, to finish that thought, the reason why I use it is because it's a greenish yellow that yeah, if you mix it with black, it will have these sort of green shadows, and I find that really interesting in gold. Since we want a bit of black also in the darker areas, I will take the base mix and add a bit more black. So yeah, just painting a bit of a line back here, down here, where the darkest area should be. And then gonna fade out. Whoa. Into that gradient. Yeah, I mean, if you paint non-metallics a lot, then this color is really good. You can vary it a bit with adding more yellow to it, but it's a good base color for non-metallics. I feel like the mid-tone is missing there a bit, so I'll take a bit of the yellow again and just gently give it a bit of a glaze. To bring back out the yellow. Alright, so the next area that I want to paint is up here, and for that I will pre-shade a bit with a wash. And up here I want to mimic the Sky Earth non-metallic metal that we started down here. So I might even shade in a bit of maybe the steel color, since that should reflect a bit. Well, yeah, we will see. So touching the areas that should be darker. Also, we'll have a gradient here that I want to pre-shade. And of course, these areas. Since, yeah, I can just go wild with the shading before we are putting in the highlights. If we were to shade after that, we would probably destroy the paintwork that we put in. Yeah, I mean with painting non-metallics, you kind of have to study a bit where the reflections would go, and make sure you maximize your contrasts. So as you can see here in the chest area, I have almost black down here and pure white in this area, so that's what's giving me this really nice effect on the eye. And you want to do that with all of the non-metallic, really. Just hitting those areas that are supposed to be dark. And like I said, we want to mimic the sky earth effect in that hose especially. So I'm going to paint the underside dark already. Then we don't have to care too much afterwards. Okay, starting with the edges again. Gonna bring them back out a bit again. And already hit the forehead of the skull, which is fine. So the underside of this. And here we want to mimic, like I said, this effect. So we need a really light line and a sharp line to about the middle of the hose. And if we hit too much, that's gonna be okay. We can shade that down again with the darker color, with the shade color. These two edges are going to be really light. And I think I want the rest to be in the shadow. That's okay. Another thing, don't forget the back side. Back here I'm going to paint the middle really light and then go dark and then go really light again. Not as much as in the back, but sort of to mimic horizontal or a vertical cylinder, sorry. Don't forget the edge. And some people make the mistake when they're painting a cylinder, they only paint one line of highlights here, and then shade all the way to the front. But you want to really just shade to about the middle of this area, and then do do another area that is lighter. Which again just mimics how steel or gold would behave. Okay, so this area here looks a bit too dark. I think I want to bring that back up to at least the base color. It's going to be a bit of a pain, but yeah. Or what we can do, since this is a cylinder as well, we can continue that and paint a few highlights. And just have the very front dark since it's somewhat facing downwards. Okay, adding a bit of white. And now I'm going to be a bit more careful. Warming up with painting this area, which is a bit easier. Okay, also this edge, gonna bring it up to about the middle, have the lightest part in the middle area. And here we need to be careful not to go too far down. Want the lightest area to be in the middle of the hose. I think you can already see sort of the effect that we're aiming for. Okay, a bit more white. Focus on the middle parts. And now we need to make sure that the line is more intricate. And it doesn't have to be 100% straight, since we will have some reflections that are, you know, sort of like here, that will reflect features of the surroundings. So that's okay. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate. Okay, again taking some pure white for the last highlights. And just adding that last bit of reflection. Which usually makes the effect stand out pretty good. And the most tricky part, the line here. Let's get that back in focus. Okay, and just like we painted some highlights, we also want to shade down some areas. So mixing a bit more black into my base coat. And hitting a few areas that I want to darken. Okay, and just like we have in this area, We also need a bit of a reflection down here. To finish off the effect. Okay, I quite like the effect. I think here, I mean, this is incredibly tiny, so it's probably doesn't really show well on stream, but the effect I think is best visible here. So we have a middle line that is really high, and just below that you see the darker parts, and just below, pointing downwards, you have that little bit of light that you will get in a cylinder that is horizontal. I like how this fades out a bit to this area, but I overdid it here, so I have to tone that down. And yeah, but other than that, I kind of like the effect. Okay, meanwhile we can try to start on the skull here.